stop talking then.
Oh, that's okay. Oh. Well, you can tell us later. Okay, well, you know what? As people come in, Barb is going to let them in, so we're going to get started. And good morning, everyone. And welcome to what is usually Let's Talk, but it has been renamed for today, Let's Have Fun, have some fun, a holiday social. My name is Meg Viss, and I'm sitting in for Mary Ennis, who is the Outreach Coordinator for CMHANL, as you well know. Before we dive in, I'm just going to share my screen. I'm just going to share my screen and take a moment to acknowledge that United Way for supporting our Let's Talk as well as our Just Ask sessions. We're very grateful to be able to share information and community with everyone. A little housekeeping, if you could please mute your mics. There will be opportunities to speak and you can unmute, but for now we're just going to have a small example. Might be Trudy, if you could mute your mic. Thank you. At the appropriate time, open it wide, share a favorite moment, a favorite memory, etc. with us. There's also captioning at the bottom of the screen. If you choose to decline, that's available to you. And record has been hit, so we will share a link to the recording. And if anybody has any suggestions, because this is the last Let's Talk of 2021. So if you're, thinking about 2022 and you have any suggestions for presentations for us for Let's Talk, please send them to marye@cmhnl.ca, or you can call us at 737-2333 or our 800 number 563-5599.
Excuse me, Meg?
Yes.
It's asking the host to enable live transcript.
Oh. Well, then let me enable. Done.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Back at it. Can you see? Perfect. I'm going to turn it over to Barb and ask her to share our land acknowledgement.
You want to share your screen?
Yeah, wouldn't that be a good idea? Hang on now. Hang on now. Share my screen. It's not popping up for some reason. There we go. Share screen. There we go. Thank you. Okay. Barb, over to you.
Okay, good morning, everybody. We respectfully acknowledge the land on which we gather as the ancestral homelands of the Beothuk, whose culture has now been erased forever. We also acknowledge the island of Ukta-Hunduk as the unceded traditional territory of the Beothuk and the Mi'kmaq. And we acknowledge Labrador as the traditional and ancestral homelands of the Innu of Nitas and Nin, and the Inuit of Nunasi-Avut, and the Inuit of Nunatu-Avut. We recognize all First Peoples who were here before us, those who live with us now, and the 7 generations to come. As First Peoples have done since time immemorial, we strive to be responsible stewards of the land and to respect the cultures, ceremonies, and traditions of all who call it home. As we open our hearts and minds to the past, we commit ourselves to working in a spirit of truth and reconciliation to make a better future for all. Thanks.
Barb.
Few little stumbles.
You did
Must
great.
be the hat.
No, you did a good job.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. So for the next hour, welcome, Yvonne. For the next hour, we're going to get a little bit informed by being a little bit entertained. So it's sort of a way into some information as well. We had mentioned when we sent out the invite, if people wanted to dress up a little in honor of the festive season. So I am going to, we do have, for those who have just arrived, there's a number of staff from CMHANL who have gone above and beyond the holiday spirit. So I'm going to ask Trudy, I'm just going to stop sharing the screen so that we can do that. Trudy, are you there? This is Trudy, believe it or not. She is one of the brightest people you will ever meet. And she's responsible for all of our data, but she's also one of the best mummers I've ever seen. Thank you, Trudy. And also, I mentioned our secret elves, Sherry and Barb. Feel free to share.
Ho, 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 Merry Christmas.
Are we gonna sing now?
Okay, let's sing, want to sing Jingle Bells?
Okay.
Ready?
And a one.
And a
one,
two, and a three.
three.
A
Okay.
jingle bells,
jingle bells,
jingle all the way. Oh, what
Oh,
fun
what
it is.
fun it is to ride in a
The
one horse open sleigh.
Oh, we got jingle bells. There we go.
Dashing through the snow.
Okay,
in a
we got
one horse
quick.
open sleigh.
Okay, Barb.
O'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Bells on bobtails ring, making
Hello.
spirits by. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a
And
one
a
horse
sleigh. Oh,
open
never
sleigh.
too much fun.
Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Come on, sing. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one horse open sleigh.
Yay! Thank you.
Bye.
And anybody else who has dressed up or put on something festive to enjoy this next hour, and hopefully you wear it for the rest of your day as a memory. Anyways, what I'm going to do is ask you to sit back, relax, and enjoy what is going to come. I'm going to share the screen because the first thing I'd like to do is to introduce you to two of our special guests. Terra Barrett is with, and I had, Terra's with Heritage Newfoundland and Labrador, and she very generously offered to come and share some holiday traditions of old with us. And Terra, if I could go into chat right now, my question would be, what is an intangible cultural heritage researcher? That is the best title I've ever seen for anyone in any job. Terra, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, sure. So ICH, or Intangible Cultural Heritage, is a term that UNESCO uses for what we would kind of call living heritage or folklore. So things that aren't built heritage, so things that aren't buildings, but traditions that are passed on through practice as opposed to through a material way.
Very cool. Thank you.
I do love mummers.
That's good. Terra holds a Bachelor of Arts in Folklore and a Master's in Public Folklore, both from Memorial University, as well as a social media certificate from Algonquin. That's great. Currently documenting untold histories, traditional skills, and associated narratives, intangible cultural heritage of Newfoundland and Labrador's historic places. Previously for Heritage NL, Terra conducted field work in several communities and worked with the Collective Memories Project. I remember hearing about that. And the Oral History Roadshow. You also, Terra, volunteer as a chair of the Mummers Festival. I believe that was on last weekend, if I'm not mistaken. And has experience working with MUN FLA, Them Days, The Rooms, and the Mummers Festival. I also would like to introduce John Dinn. And John is from the Canadian Mental Health Association. He's their workplace mental health coordinator. And he's here today to share some tips because the holidays can come with some of the highest expectations and anticipations of the year largely. And for some people, some coping skills might be very helpful to deal with some of the challenges that people might have. John's been working in the field of mental health and addictions for almost 30 years. His background is very deep and wide. That is me shortening that for you, John, because there was so much. In addition to being a registered social worker, he's also a Mental Health Commission of Canada certified mental health first aid trainer for adults, youth, and seniors. He really enjoys sharing knowledge and learning with participants to promote mental health and well-being. In his spare time, he volunteers with the St. John's Ambulance Therapy Dog Program. And as you can see beside him there, he can also be found in local dog parks with his 2 Norwich Terriers, Finn and Lucy. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. I am going to stop sharing my screen now. Bear with me. If somebody wants to sing, feel free. Oh, there we go. Okay, so lead into Terra. We have a song, Terra, that we would like to play, and just as a little bit of entertainment for everybody as well. This will be the first of several. There. Stop and check one thing before I do that. Thank you. Then there, yes. Okay. So our first song to enjoy will be familiar.
Are you a coach, consultant, or expert who actually wants to make an impact? If so, keep watching this video.
Don't seem like Christmas if the mummers are not here. Granny would say as she'd knit in her chair. Things have gone modern, and I suppose that's the cause. Christmas is not like it was. Hark, what's the noise out by the porch door? Granny, 'tis mummers, there's 20 or more. Her old withered face brightens up with a grin. Any mummers, nice mummers, loud in. Come in, lovely mummers, don't bother the snow. We can wipe up the water, sure, after you go. Sit if you can, or on some mummer's knee. Let's see if we know who you be. There's big ones and small ones and tall ones and thin. Boys dressed as women and girls dressed as men. Humps on their backs and mitts on their feet. My blessed, we'll die with the heat. There's only one there that I think that I know. That tall fella standing o'er alongside the stove. He's shaking his fist for to make me not tell. Must be Willie from out on the hill. Now that one's a stranger, if there ever was one, with his underwear stuffed and his trapdoor undone. Is he wearing his mother's big 42 bra? I knows, but I'm not going to say. Don't suppose you find mummers would turn down a drop. No homebrew or elky, whatever you got. Not the one with his rubber boots on the wrong feet. He's enough for to do him all week. Suppose you can dance, yes, they all nod their heads. They've been tapping their feet ever since they came in. Now that the drinks have been all passed around, the mummers are planking her down. Be careful the lamp and hold on to the stove. Don't swing Granny hard, 'cause you know that she's old. No need for to care how you buckles the floor, 'cause mummers have danced here before. My God, how hot is it? We'd better go. I allow we'll all get the devil's own cold. Good night and good Christmas, mummers, me dears. Please God, we will see you next year. Good night and good Christmas, mummers, me dears, please God, we will see you next year.
Excellent. So I'm going to hand this over to you now, Sarah, and ask you to share your screen.
And before I get started, can I just double check how long am I supposed to be chatting for?
Well, 10, 15 minutes. Does that work for you?
Yeah, sure. Just wanted to have a rough estimate before I started, because there's a lot in here, which I'm gonna gloss over some of it.
Okay, perfect.
So that was great. Love the Mummer song. In a past life, in 2019, I worked with the Mummers Festival, and I organized the festival that year, and it was a lot of fun. And this year we had our 13th festival, and Bud Davidge came and he played that song, and it was a lot of fun. If anybody missed out, there's a video on the Mummers Festival Facebook page with Bud up on stage. So today I'm going to talk about holiday traditions in Newfoundland and Labrador. I'm going to talk a lot about mummers because I know a lot about mummers and a little about a few other things. So just to start off, what is mummering? So when you think about mummering, you might have, probably one main thing in mind. Maybe if we can get one or two answers. What do people think of when they think of mummering? You can either write it out or say it.
When I think about mummering, well, now I will think of Trudy, but before that, I was thinking about. I thought about how much fun people must have getting dressed up to go and visit and socialize with their friends and family. See if there's anything, costumes from Elizabeth. She says,
Yeah,
costumes,
how much fun.
midnight
And Lay said, and surprise visits, rum, all good thoughts on that.
See if there's any more. Yeah, there you go.
So mummering is a type of social behavior. So it's disguise visiting, and disguise visiting takes place all across the world. Different names for it. Here in Newfoundland and Labrador, we call it mummering. There's a tradition of mummering in Philadelphia. Mummering for us, of course, came over from England and Ireland, from the UK mainly. But there's traditions of disguising, particularly during the winter months, in all across Europe. So it serves as kind of a renewal and a way to get together with family and friends. One of the most important parts of mummering is the relationship between the mummers. So as you go mummering between houses, and also between mummers and their hosts. In Newfoundland and Labrador, there's three kind of forms of mummering that have been here over time. So the first is probably the one that we think of the most, which is the house visit, where you would go from house to house. You would try and make sure that you were disguised from, just gonna hang up that phone. Sorry. Make sure you were disguised from head to toe, so that your neighbors wouldn't know who you were. This would usually take place in smaller communities. And so you try and make sure that everything from your walk to your voice was disguised. At the beginning, when Trudy did her, that's usually something where people would speak with what's called ingressive speech. So you'd speak while breathing in, so you can change your voice. So you try and change everything about yourself, particularly because you're in a smaller community, so people would know you so well. The two other forms that are found in the province, or have traditionally been found in the province, were the mummers play, which was found in certain pockets of the province. The mummers troupe, which was Chris Brooks was a big organizer for in the 1970s. They've done a lot of kind of research on it. So it was found in certain pockets of the province. Chris Brooks found a lot of it on the southern shore. And then, and that's like a stylized play that came over from the UK, where there's certain characters. There's a doctor, King George, a knight, and it follows kind of a certain progression. And then the Mummers Parade. So in 2009, there was a Mummers Parade started in St. John's, but there's historical and archival evidence of mummers parading through the streets of St. John's in the late 1800s. So that's another form that there's evidence for throughout time. Some of the photos, I've got a lot of photos of mummers that I just want to briefly skim through, just to give an example of some of the different kinds of mummers, because I love the Mummer Song, and I love, you know, the CBC special that comes on every year. But it kind of suggested and put forth that there was only one sort of mummer, and then kind of the commercialization of mummering and different things that you can buy in store kind of suggests that the only way to mummer is with a pillowcase and all of that. So just to give an idea of some of the historical varieties of mummers we saw. So this one here was taken in Harrington Harbour in 1930. The bag or box with the straw on top. I just think they look horrifying. This one here is also in Harrington Harbour around the 1950s. And the pillowcases are great, and I love kind of the drawings on there, but I also really like the reindeer, the very creepy looking creature in the center there. This one's from Winterton in 1958. And here mummers are using false faces or masks to, you know, that might be, you know, thought of for Halloween or something like that, but using what they had and using false faces to mummer. This one here is from the 1960s in Almer Sound, and I really love the beer box mummer. I think that's a great use of what you have. This one's from 1975, the Flat Rock Mummer. So this was taken by actually a colleague of mine. And I like that it shows kind of how people try to change their shape. So you have some stuffing on your back. Oftentimes people would stuff their front or their, like, you know, their butt, try and make sure that you wouldn't recognize who they were. This one here is from 1988 in François. I really love the mask on this guy. He looks ridiculous. The mask and the person in the center. And somebody mentioned rum before. It looks like they are perhaps indeed enjoying some rum there. This one is from the 1980s in Calvert on the southern shore. And this is kind of what you might think of as a traditional mummering scene. You've got an accordion, so you've got some music. They're in a kitchen. This is just like a great photo from the 1980s. I had difficulty finding photos that were dated in the 1990s. So this is my brother dressed up as a mummer around 1990. I would say my parents dressed him up for fun. I don't think he actually went out mummering. And this is me in 1997. We went to school and mummered, which was a lot of fun and probably sparked my interest in mummering. And this one, I don't have any date or any information about it, but you can see it kind of in news articles or when things come up about mummering. I just love it because there's this one where everyone's faces are covered. And then there's this one where all the kids have their faces shown. And I think it's just a really great photo. And I wish I had some more information on it. I also really love kind of the detail around some of the faces, like the eyes that have been drawn out. So it's a great photo. So as I mentioned, there's all kinds of different sorts of mummers, and they take, you know, all kinds of forms and use whatever they have. I knew that this was happening today, but I forgot that I was supposed to dress up, but I did. You won't be able to see it very well, but I did dress up on the weekend. This is my costume from the weekend. I made that belt that morning out of zippers, and I cut a part of dress so I could have something to cover my face. The ship hat I did not make that morning because that would be way too much work for a Saturday morning. But usually you wore whatever you had, whatever was available. Mummers, depending on where you were, have had other names as well. I know my nan used to call them Jannies. So Jannies with all sorts of spellings, Jenny, Johnny, Geyser or Fool were another one. another name that sometimes mummers took on. And I'll talk a little bit more about fools in particular, and Onshook as well as another name. So I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of the research that's gone into mummers over time. If you want to learn more, ask me about it afterwards, because I love talking about mummers. So in 1969, Herbert Halpert, who founded the folklore department and the Folklore and Language Archives in 1968, along with George Story, put together a book about Christmas mumming in Newfoundland. I think that's probably the first kind of official academic research and writing around mummers. And it was based on a lot of students' work. So what they would do is they would send students out to their hometowns over the holidays and get them to write down information about mummering. So there's a huge collection at Memorial of particular customs in different communities. So I'm going to talk a little bit about hobby horses and things like that. And they've put a lot of that information into kind of this book. In 1979, a folklore student, Margaret Robertson, wrote the Christmas Mummers Christmas House Visit. And again, she went through a lot of the material that was in the archives and talks about kind of how different pockets of the province have different traditions. I mentioned before the mummers play, which is kind of has been prevalent or has been known to be prevalent on the southern shore, meaning the southern shore of the Avalon. But there's certainly other places that have particular traditions that I'll get into a little bit more. So in 1983, the Mummer Song was released, including, well, actually, the Mummer Song was released in 1983, but the CD was released in 1984. This is Any Mummers Allowed In. This is the album that it was on. And if you've ever talked to Bud Davidge, I haven't had the opportunity. I know Sim Savory has passed on, so I didn't have the opportunity to meet him, but I've met Bud, and he is great and humble and very, very sweet. And if you talk to him about the Mummer Song, I really don't think he thought it would go kind of as big and as far as it did. And I think it's kind of wonderful that it exploded. And here's the still from the 1985 Mummers Song CBC special. I'll just play just a small clip. Won't play the full thing.
Don't seem like Christmas if the mummers are not here. Granny would say as she'd knit in her chair. Things have gone modern, I suppose that's the cause. Christmas is not like it was.
So from the 1960s onwards, there had kind of been this idea that mummering was dying out. I think it was kind of the public saying, "Oh, there's not as many mummers. It's not happening as often." There's many kind of theories as to why this might be. The suggestion that carpet coming in meant that it was less easy to clean up after mummers. Another idea that's kind of thrown around is the ban on mummering. So there was an official ban on mummering. I think this touches on a little bit on the darker side of mummering, which there has been over time, and I think it's kind of good to recognize that. So in the 1860s, a group of mummers did strike a gentleman, Isaac Mercer of Bay Roberts, on his way home, and he died in his sleep that night. On June 25th, 1861, an act to make further provision for the prevention of nuisances was passed, and it said, "Any person who shall be found at any season of the year without a written license from a magistrate, dressed as a mummer, masked or otherwise disguised, shall be deemed guilty of a public nuisance." Mummering kind of continued, and apparently some violence continued as well. So in 1862, an amendment was made that said mummering was illegal, and that law remained on the books for over 100 years. And this picture right here, this is what's known as the Mummers Gate in Bay Roberts, and that's actually the area in which the gentleman Isaac Mercer was struck and then went home died in his sleep, unfortunately. So there always has been kind of a darker side associated with mummering, and it was on the books and illegal for quite some time. And then in 2009, there was a partnership between MANL's folklore department and Heritage NL to kind of bring about a folk life festival, and mummering was the decision for kind of the event to focus on. And they hired a folklore student who ran the first festival and became the executive director, Ryan Davis. And like I mentioned, we just had our 13th annual festival on the weekend, which was a lot of fun. So I'm glad that that festival continues on, and it brings, you know, lectures about the mummering tradition, and of course our big one is the parade. So I'm going to touch very briefly on some of the other forms of disguising or holiday traditions in the province. So here we have the Wren. The Wren isn't actually a disguising tradition. You wouldn't dress up. You'd actually dress up in your finest clothes to go door to door with the Wren. But you would bring a small effigy or a small, you know, bird figure and go door to door. Traditionally, it was done by young boys who would go door to door to do the Wren. And there's a little rhyme that goes along with it. The wren, the king of all birds, St. Stephen's day he was caught in the furs. Although he was little, his honor was great. Rise up, kind lady, and give us a treat. Up with the kettle and down with the pan, give us a penny to bury the wren. A pocket full of money and a cellar full of cheer. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So Dennis Flynn, who's in this previous picture here, Dennis, he grew up in Colliers, and the tradition is practiced there. And Bev Kane, she grew up in St. John's, but she's living in Renews on the Southern Shore, and her husband practiced the tradition, and she continues it on with their grandchildren. So fools or ribbon fools are another form of, this is a kind of a form of mummer. And this tradition seemed to be very localized to Pooch Cove and Flat Rock, particularly in the early to mid 1900s. In Flat Rock, they were seen kind of throughout the 12 days of Christmas, but in Pooch Cove, it was just on Old Christmas Day or January 6th. And this was a public tradition, so you parade through the streets as opposed to going into people's houses. There's also, and earlier I mentioned there's some archival evidence. So this is a sketch from 1887, and this person atop the white horse actually has a ship hat on, and there's actually a hobby horse kind of to the left there. So, and there's a person back here with a flag who also has a ship hat on. So these are some of the historical kind of sketches that we have that suggest that mummers were parading through the streets and that they were perhaps wearing ship hats. In 2015, the festival kind of focused on the ribbon fool tradition. So we did some workshops on how to make a ship hat, which is again what I wore this Saturday on the mummers parade, and how to make a ribbon costume itself. And there's just another sketch which shows two more of the ship hats. The hobby horse is another tradition found in the province, again found in pockets. There were all kinds of animals besides hobby horses: hobby cows, hobby goats, hobby sheep, hobby bulls, hobby moose, derby ram, hobby pig, basically any sort of creature, usually with a jaw that makes what's called a snocking sound, where there generally be nails, and they would make a sound as the nails hit against the wood up top. I'm going to read this quote because it kind of suggests that hobby horses have had a long tradition in the province. It does use the word savage, which is evident of the time and is not something that we would say today or should necessarily have been said then. But in 1583, Sir Humphrey Gilbert wrote, "Besides for solace of our people and the allurement of the savages, we were provided of music in good variety, not omitting the least toys, as Morris dancers, hobby horses, and May-like conceits to delight the people." So this one here comes from the Rooms collection, and this one was from George Hutchings. There's actually a really good, there's some research in the folklore archives about hobby horses, in this one's from Whitburn in particular, and in that community chasing people down. The hobby horse and the people who were with it would chase people down and kind of lather men's faces up and shave them. So again, a bit more of the hobby horses are a bit more on the darker side. And I've got just a few more hobby creatures. This one is a hobby polar bear from Notre Dame Bay. This is, of course, a hobby horse that the festival has kind of taken on, creating hobby horses out of cardboard, which is a lot easier for carrying, especially if kids are doing that. And this is a picture of a hobby bull in the background and a hobby horse to the right. I'm running low on time, so I'm going to really speed through this, but Naliak is a type of disguising tradition found in Labrador, found in Inuit communities. It's not related to mummering, it's a disguising or a masking tradition during, well, it happens traditionally on January 6th or Old Christmas Day. Naliak would usually come in off the ice into the community, show you a picture so you can get an example, covered in skins and furs. There's certain communities have kind of different traditions, but usually they would chase children down, and the children might sing a song and get a candy or something like that. So it depended on the community, but it's another kind of disguising tradition found in the province. A few other holiday customs. So Advent Sunday, this is one that I don't know a whole lot about, but in Labrador, they have the tradition of on Advent Sunday, which would be, I think, the third Sunday before Christmas, that sometimes there would be, they would leave out stockings and they would get little gifts in their stockings. Brass bands, I was going to show just a little clip, but I think I'm running out of time, so I won't. But brass bands are, of course, a part of certain communities along the coast, in particular Nain. So it's kind of a Moravian tradition married with Inuit tradition. So brass bands could be seen throughout the community during the Christmas season. Tibbs Eve, which has an interesting history and has certainly grown in popularity in recent years. Saint Tib was a character in English plays, a woman of loose morals, so perhaps it was said that she could exist. It was a contradiction. So people would often say that it would happen, something would happen on Tibbs Eve, like I would pay you on Tibbs Eve, or here, I can show you this. It would basically be a day that would never come. And then over time, especially on the south coast of the province, it became associated with December 23rd and became associated with having a drink on Tibbs Eve. Christmas trees, I don't know if anybody here, I know my dad growing up, his Christmas tree would go up overnight on Christmas Eve. So he would go to bed, and when he woke up the next morning, the Christmas tree would be up. This is my mom's parents. Another example of kind of Christmas tree folklore or a custom that would happen, at least to my knowledge, in St. John's. I'm not sure about outside of St. John's, but people would go door to door, kind of visiting their neighbors. Children would. So my dad did this as a kid, just to get a treat. It was basically a way to get, a cup of purity syrup and a cookie or something, but you'd ask to see the tree. New Year's Eve, so this is actually a wedding photo, but this is traditionally, you can see this gentleman here has a shotgun. So in the province, at New Year's Eve, there's a custom of shooting off a gun to celebrate the new year. It's also associated with weddings. So this photo comes from Labrador. So this gentleman has either just shot off or will shoot off the gun to celebrate the wedding. And Old Christmas Day. I don't know about anyone else, but I keep my Christmas decorations up until January 6th, which is Old Christmas Day. There's a longer tradition or a longer discussion around January 18th being real Old Christmas Day, which I won't get into. But again, some places in the province would have a treat or something go in their stocking on Old Christmas Day. This is, again, something that I know happened in my old family. That you would get something small kind of on Santa's way back. That's the basis of my presentation. And I've got, actually, I just had my information, so I will share my thank you slide and then I'll answer any questions, because I think I've got a few. Let's see what the chat says. Somebody made a hobby horse one year. Somebody else used to get stockings on Old Christmas Day. Awesome. So that's it from me.
My name is Neil Hamilton. I just have a comment. Your presentation was so amazing and so inspirational too as well. It takes me back to my days when growing up in Belle Island when Mummery was called Jannying too as well. I have relatives up on the southern shore and I haven't heard the term wren in such a long time. On Sunday past, I looked at Land and Sea, and they did a special on a man by the name of Alan Young in Tuolingay, and his presentation and the video on Mummery was just wonderful. And this morning, your presentation is a good follow to that. So I must say, I'm so glad that I'm part of this community this morning. Thank you.
Thanks.
Meg, you're muted. You see me talking, but nothing's coming out, right? Thank you, Neil. That's great. Thank you, Tara. That was amazing. So, did you want to share your screen, Tara? Okay, perfect. Okay, so the next thing that we are going to do together is I'm hoping that we're going to have an opportunity for us to share a few of our favorite memories over the holidays. As a lead into that, I'm going to share my screen because we have, yes, share screen. We have another song that I want to play. You guys may know Shani Gunu. I say that with a smile. So this is a great lead into sharing of memories.
When I was a child, Christmas was real. You would not believe the excitement I feel. To see the tree up and the lights all aglow, I could hardly contain myself, don't you know? For Christmas morning under the tree, that's what Christmas meant to me.
I was a young man that time of the year. We made every party, we drank lots of beer. We sang out our best song so loud and so clear. We were so wild and so free, living our best memories. That's what Christmas meant to me. That's what Christmas meant to me.
Midlife, myself and my wife, it was all about our family. We'd all come together where two didn't matter. It was great for the old eyes to see. The kids were all playing, the adults were all swaying to songs that were sang just off key. That's what Christmas meant to me. That's what Christmas meant to me.
slips away. Seems Christmas flies by oh so fast. It amazes me how, as a grandfather now, when I tell my grandkids about the past, I see in their eyes their future so bright, with wonders of life's mysteries. That's what Christmas means to me. That's what Christmas means to me.
There's more to the joy than that brand new toy.
It's more than what's under the tree.
It's the good times we share with those we hold dear,
forever in our memories. That's what Christmas meant to me. That's what Christmas meant to me. That's what Christmas meant.
Billy?
Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm going to ask people to share, if they want, any favorite memories of Christmas. Thought that was a really good lead into the sharing, and I'm wondering if anybody wants to volunteer to start. Because if you don't, then I will.
Yeah, I certainly would, if I have a little bit of time. It shouldn't take too long. Christmas time is very special, especially in relation to family and members and whatnot. And my memory goes back to 1979. Back then, my oldest brother, he was an RCMP officer in Manitoba, and he and his wife and family, they got transferred to Corner Brook. So his wife Norma, she's always been such a special sister-in-law too as well, and the glue that always kept it going in our family too as well. So a few weeks before Christmas, she called me and said, Neil, I have a suggestion as to what we could get for your mom for Christmas this year. We had always been thinking in terms of different things and whatnot. So she made a suggestion that we should probably maybe get a family ring. And she said, if you wanted to leave it with me, she said, I'll do some information on the birthstones, and she said, I'll get it wrapped, send it to you in St. John's, and you can give it to your mother as part of that Christmas morning. So anyway, which we did Christmas morning that was in 1979. As we were sitting around the Christmas tree, we watched my mother opening her gifts and whatnot. So after a while, she came to this small box and opened it. And when she saw what it was, her face turned so red, it was not even funny. And then she started to immediately cry and really cry. And I said, Mom, what's wrong? Don't you like the ring? And this is what she said to me. She said, Neil, this is something I've always wanted in my whole lifetime. And over the years, she used to say to me, that ring has reached into my inner soul and heart. So providing that kind of a gift to a family member or to anybody has got such an impact. It's just unreal. And every Christmas about this time, like I shed a few tears, and my memory goes back to that. That was such a beautiful morning, and My thanks again goes back to my sister-in-law who's living in PEI. She's 86 years old. She's so smart, intelligent. She golfs all day, and she's such a special family member. But that Christmas morning was made so special. So that's my little talk.
Amen. It was really beautiful. Is there anybody else who'd like to share a family memory? Elaine.
Yes. I'd like to say, as a child, we always decorate, well, Mom and Dad always decorated the tree on Christmas Eve. We got up Christmas morning and opened the kitchen door. It was like magic because there was nothing there when we went to bed. And the tree was always in the corner, beautifully decorated. But one particular Christmas, I was about 7, and my dad had said, this was in the 1950s, and my dad had said, what would you like for Christmas? And I said, I'd like to have a dollhouse. And he said, oh, I don't think Santa's going to be able to get a dollhouse. It's too much, costs a lot of money and whatever. So I had my mind made up. I wasn't going to get a dollhouse. And that Christmas Eve, I had to sleep with my grandmother because when it was really cold, I had to sleep with her because it was frosty and whatever. And she slept in a feather bed and I couldn't get out of the bed unless she helped me. So Christmas morning, my brothers and sisters rushed in and said, get up, Santa's here. And I said, no, I didn't want to get up because I knew I wasn't getting my dollhouse. Get up, you know, it's really important. And grandmother wouldn't let me out of the bed. And anyway, after a while, they dragged me out. We got out, and under the tree was this absolutely beautiful dollhouse. And I always remember it. But my bubble was burst a little bit when Mom said, there's your dollhouse, but the garage part belongs to your brother. So it had an attached garage and my brother owned the garage. Girls weren't supposed to have a garage. So,
Come a long way.
Yeah, we've come a long way since then, for
That's
sure.
good. That's good.
Oh my God, thank you for that. That was great. Is
I
there
have
anybody
one,
else?
Meg.
Yeah.
Back here, we had a contest, not a contest, but a theme going in our office. And I did Tree of Memories or Christmas Memories Past. And the photos you see on the door there is from my memories that I have as a kid. But like Elaine, I do have a similar story. I was about 5 or 6 and I wanted a Barbie camper. And I was so excited. And of course, I went to bed Christmas Eve and I had to get up in the middle of the night and I heard a noise in the kitchen. And I went out and I was half asleep. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I see my dad and my brother putting together something. And my dad goes, oh no, go back to bed, go back to bed. So I went on to bed, I was half asleep. I get up the next morning and I'm like, oh, I got my Barbie camper. And later during that day, I said to my dad, I said, I thought Santa brought my Barbie camper. He said, he did. I said, but why did you and my brother put something together? He said, oh, Santa had so many children to attend to. He asked me and your brother to put it together for him, to help him out. I believed him. He was good. He thought on his feet really well.
That's great. Thank you, Barb. Or Barb, Sherry.
You're welcome.
Sherry, Barb, Sherry. Is there anybody else who wants to share a Christmas memory, holiday memory?
I'll go ahead. I just wanted to say thanks to Terra. I love your presentation. And it reminded me of something. I forgot that people used to come around and say, can I see your Christmas tree? And we're come from away and we're Jewish. So in the 60s, we would have all these people knocking on our door asking to come see our Christmas tree. And we were actually like, we had no idea. And then when we explained that, no, we didn't have a Christmas tree, we celebrated Hanukkah, like the look of complete confusion on people's face. Hanukkah comes with its own wonderful memories, but I did have Christmas tree envy, and I finally convinced my parents to make a Hanukkah bush. So
Great, thank you. Anybody else who would like to share a favorite memory? Well,
Maybe
Yes.
Maybe I will. You do? You going, Trudy?
You go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Barb.
I suppose this is about 10 years ago. And one Christmas morning, we all gathered together and stuff like that. And years ago, I used to knit the children sweaters, not mitts, but sweaters and blankets and stuff like that in crochet. And I made this particular little sweater for my son, and I guess I gave it to him for keepsake. And anyway, I suppose he's 43 now, so I made it for him. He might have been 10. It was a little cardigan with a zipper, hockey sticks on, his name on the back. I forgot about it for 20, 30 years. Now I'm dating myself, but anyway, one morning he came in and he gave me this box. And it was the size of a shoebox. And I said, oh, I said, it must be a pair of slippers, pair of sneakers. And I try not to fill up, but anyway, I opened it up and here was a sweater. Well, I lost it. And it really touches my heart, but I'm so glad that he got tradition in him, which I hope he goes forward with his family when I'm gone, and it probably will. Sorry about this.
Never apologize, Barb.
Anyway, it was really nice to see it.
Thank you for sharing that. That was obviously a very special one.
Yeah.
Thank you. Rudy, did you want to say something?
Do you have time or a mummer?
Go for it. Go for it.
I always remember going when I went home anytime. The house just always smelled really good. And I just remember last night that Mom used to make something called a Swedish tea ring. And I always loved it being cooked because it just had this smell of cinnamon. So about 10 years ago, I had lived away and I came back and Mom asked, what do you want for Christmas? And she was coming in to spend some time with me and my sisters. And I said, I'd like a fruit cake. So she had started making these diabetic fruit cakes, which is like a longevity loaf. And I just remember for the last probably 10 years, she's come in and made the fruit cake. She broke her arm one year and I actually made the fruit cake, just let it, and it's so nice because you boil the fruit and the smell of the nutmeg and the cloves, it just means Christmas as much to me as mummering does. So this year, I'm going to cry like Barb now. This year, my mom is living in Nova Scotia, making longevity loaves for my sister. So she's moved there and it really made a lot of sense for her to move. She's happy. But I'm really missing her and I'm missing a good friend of ours who moved as well to a personal care home. So I think I'm just going to have to boil some cloves and nutmeg and cinnamon and because we just really can't eat a whole cake by ourselves. But that's the memory. It's the smell of Christmas is the memory.
Is there anybody else?
Can I probably make an add-on to Trudy and her Christmas cake and whatnot? I've got a short story and it goes back again to my sister-in-law in PEI. When Norma and my brother got married back in '58, their first Christmas, Norma always sent a dark fruit cake to Mom. And this went on until Mom passed away in 1992. And that was a few weeks before Christmas. And I said to myself, well, this is not going to happen anymore. But about a week before Christmas, the cake arrived again. And it still continues. And I got my Christmas cake again in the mail about a week or two ago. So it's 50 years in the making, and it's got such special feelings for me. It's just unreal. So it goes back to Trudy. What a wonderful memory.
Thank you. So many great memories.
So Meg, do you have one from a memory from a Dutch?
Yeah. Okay, I'll share my memory and then just to let people know it's 10:30ish. And so we have a little bit more to go, but not too much. Yeah, so I grew up in Ontario, but my father came from Holland in 1950. And he married someone who was not Dutch. So he struggled to keep some Dutch tradition in our family. And there were 6 children. I was the oldest, and my sister, I have a sister who is 10 years younger. At Christmas, instead of stockings, and this was in an attempt to keep the Dutch heritage alive, we would have wooden shoes on the fireplace. So we'd never had stockings, we had wooden shoes, and we would each have a pair of wooden shoes on the fireplace because you could get maximum amount of chocolate and goodies into a pair as opposed to a single one. But we were a bit idle, and one brother in particularly idle, and my youngest sister, she was so young and she was so looking forward to her wooden shoes and her chocolate, except my brother had gotten up in the middle of the night and he'd taken her chocolate and he filled her shoes full of cheese, because that's very Dutch cheese. So when she got up, we were all enjoying our stockings, our wooden shoes, and poor Anne is looking at the cheese, and my brother said to her, well, if you would like some chocolate, you will have to negotiate with each of us a piece of cheese for some chocolate. So she spent her entire Christmas morning negotiating cheese for chocolate out of the wooden shoes. She still holds it against them. Anyways, I'm going to see where I'm to. That was fantastic. My God, that was amazing. I want to share a very special video. And if you have to go, I fully understand. But truthfully, this was shared to us by Elizabeth in the desire to create a broader definition of holiday, because everybody celebrates holidays differently. It is, I'm not going to lie, my new favorite all-time video. And if you see me bopping, that's because I love it so much in this. So I'm going to share this with you. I'm not even going to tell you what it is. Wait, first I'm going to share my screen. Make sure I got that. And I just want you to enjoy this from the very beginning.
Grow your money and use it whenever you want with CIBC.
Tonight is Hanukkah, got everything we need, a frying pan, some oil, and a latke recipe. Let's celebrate our ancestry. We've got, the latke recipe. For potatoes, peeling great, shredding onion, tears streaming down your face. Then salt and pepper to your taste. Add a tablespoon of flour, a pinch of baking powder. Then add 2 eggs and mix it all together. And while we stir, we sing. Tonight is Hanukkah, got everything we need. A frying pan, some oil for your latke recipe. Let's celebrate our victory. We've got the latke recipe. single jar that burned for 8 days. The food we eat as part of our tradition, it keeps that flame alive. Tonight is Hanukkah, got everything we need, good friends and family here to try our vodka recipe. Best served with applesauce, you see. We've got the vodka recipe.
Guys, that was me.
Oh my God. Thank you, Elizabeth, forever. I hope
Nice.
you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed it. And, oh, hang on now. That's exactly what I wasn't supposed to do. There we go. And I'm just gonna make one observation. Holiday is holiday, holiday is food, holiday is family, holiday is laughter, holiday is love. And that video definitely was that. Okay, I'm gonna ask a question. Is Terry Riley with us? Okay. So as a lead in to John, who's gonna talk a little bit for us on sort of coping with some of the emotional challenges attached to Christmas. There is another song that was written and performed by another local, Terry Riley. And I'm just going to share my screen again. So I can just go into that. And if Terry's here, I was hoping that he might talk to us a little bit about it. But if not, I'm just going to play. I can just find it and read this thing. And this is a song that Terry wrote this year, November 13th, and shared on his video on his Facebook. He's a prolific singer and producer of songs and videos, and all of them are great. So I'm just going to play this one, and it's a nice lead into you, John. I just need to find.
Do you want to vote?
Hang on. Hey, no, we don't want that. Well, I don't know what's happening here. Hey, anybody have some technical expertise on here? You may have to not. I'm going to stop cancel. I'm going to try one more time, and if it works, great. And if it doesn't, maybe.
Is it too early for Christmas songs? In general, perhaps, but this song is a little different, maybe. I think it's time for this song, and partially because I have some new friends to spend this Christmas with, and some old ones too, of course, some old and dear ones. Here it is, Christmas with a Friend. What I'd like for Christmas is Christmas with a friend, to do something together like we did back when life was less complicated and a little slower then. What I'd like for Christmas is Christmas with a friend. Not everyone can afford to shop for fancy presents. For some this might be Christmas, but for me it really isn't. Sure, shiny gifts look wonderful under the Christmas tree, but Christmas can be many things, and if someone should ask me, I'd tell them what I'd like for Christmas is Christmas Christmas with a friend, to do something together like we did back when life was less complicated and a little slower than. What I'd like for Christmas is Christmas with a friend. Maybe you and I could make some angels in freshly fallen snow for people passing by to see. Wouldn't their eyes just glow? We might share some carols and a walk in the woods, then hot cocoa to warm us up. How wouldn't that taste real good? Yeah, what I'd like for Christmas is Christmas with a friend, to do something together like we did back when life was less complicated and a little slower than. Yes, what I'd like for Christmas is Christmas with a friend. Christmas with us is a special time for friends and family, but I'd like to slow it down a bit. Perhaps you might agree. No matter what we get, what matters most, I figure, is sharing time together. Now that's a gift to really treasure. What I'd like for Christmas is Christmas with a friend, to do something together like we did back when life was less complicated and a little slower than. What I'd like for Christmas is Christmas with a friend. Something like that.
So I hope that, John, you feel that's a good lead into what you're going to share with us. Do you want to share your screen, John? Good.
There we go.
Perfect.
Can people see the slides there now? Can people see the slides there now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so in interest of time, I'm going to skip through some of this and just get to the some more points about some tips we can use for Christmas and that, and how to get through the holiday season. So I'm going to skip through most of this in the interest of time, and talk a little bit about some of the tips that we could use for our self-care during Christmas for the holiday season. So some things, so for, I guess for a lot of us, I guess during the Christmas season or the holiday season, it's a time of celebration for most of us, but not everyone is going through the same time. Maybe it could be a difficult time for some of us. So it's important that you know, everyone feels they're able to manage their mental health during the holidays, because it's a lot of stressors that we put on ourselves, and there's a lot of stress now that people are going through now with COVID and all the restrictions that happened with that. So sometimes you might be unsure how to cope with the loss of a loved one, or going to social gatherings now can make you feel anxious because of the COVID pandemic and that. So have some tips and suggestions we can use for helping us get through the holiday season. So one of the things we, again, holidays, busy time of year, and sometimes we may neglect our self-care can be neglected. So it can be overwhelming and put a lot of pressure on us and affect our well-being. So it's important that we actually take time to take a break for ourselves, to help us relax and do things just for ourselves, even though, it's the time where you're expected to be with everyone. You want to also try to stay active. So sometimes it may be tempting to stay indoors or not go anywhere, just close up watching a show or something. But it's always good to make sure that you try to stay active as well during the season. If you're trying to avoid, because of COVID and crowds and that as well. Another thing you want to keep in mind for during the season is overindulgence. So sometimes it's always a possibility that we might overindulge in our eating or drinking and that. So it's okay to treat yourself, but you always want to make sure that you try and balance that in moderation. Another thing you want to keep in mind as well is remember that it's okay to ask for help. So if you're struggling yourself during this time, remember it's okay to ask for help. Sharing your feelings with someone else can be a great way to get support. It's not a sign of weakness to ask for help. It's actually a sign of strength. So make sure you turn to your friends or family support. It's important to use your network of friends and support that you can, to help you with any losses that you've gone through in the past year or previously. Another one you want to make sure is, for self-care is try your best to plan ahead. So do things to nurture yourself. So self-care doesn't mean that you're feeling sorry for yourself or you're being self-indulgent. It's allowing yourself time and loving attention to take, the meaning in the continued living. So you're basically doing things to rejuvenate yourself. So plan ahead, use the keep it simple strategy if you can. So if you're in the cooking and that, use menus that you can plan ahead of time, prepare and freeze in advance. If you have decorating or cooking or shopping or a to-do list, try to do as many things in advance. That way, hopefully, give you time to relax and enjoy the season. If you have to, organize and delegate as much as possible. Use your resources like your family, if possible, to help you. Whether it's gift wrapping or decorating or baking or doing Christmas cards. Every family member can partake in some way. Grandchildren, if you have grandchildren, use whatever resources you have available to you. Be aware of overindulgence, like I mentioned before. Try to eat well, exercise, and get a good night's sleep to maintain your holiday peace of mind. So a lot of times we're asked to go a lot of different places, and we may be up different hours than we're used to. So try to remember to take some time for yourself. Set up your own schedule if you got to. Some other tips, again, is stay within a budget. A lot of times we have a lot of things we have to buy for people. So finances can be a source of stress for many people, especially during the holidays. And this year, like no other, we've been, the price of everything has gone up since COVID. So people are finding it a bit more difficult. So some ways you can work around that, maybe to get a gift or give something that's creative or, a personal gift, maybe a call to someone or to a physically distant visit or a note to someone to tell them how much you know, you value their friendship or a card or something like that, sometimes can be a lot more meaningful than actually buying a gift for someone. Connection this time of year now is even more important than ever, especially because of the social restrictions of COVID. So it's important to remember this time of year that it's not always merry for everyone as well. So feelings of connection or belonging are you know, strongly tied to our mental health. So this time of year is perfect time actually to reconnect to your social network. So we've already been doing a lot of social isolation, social restrictions the past year because of COVID restrictions and that. So it's a good time of year now to try and reconnect with people maybe that we haven't gotten the chance to see in a long time. So try to connect with people as safe way as possible. If you're coping with bereavement, Christmas season can be very difficult as well. You know, feeling, trying to navigate through this Christmas time. So talking to someone you trust is very helpful. Finding someone you can trust that you can confide in a comfortable way can go a long way to help you with your bereavement. Talking about it with someone, you know, is a great way to ease it for yourself as well. A lot of times, if you don't, it can lead to stress and depression for yourself. Challenge yourself to talk. So actively seek out opportunities to talk about the person you've lost in conversation with other people. It's going to be a challenge, first of all, to talk about someone, but again, it helps you understand and cope better yourself in the long run. And being around other people who know that person and is able to go talk about it and be comfortable and comforting to you can go a long way as well. Treasure your memories of that person. So at Christmas, remember fondly the times that you have together. You know, it's about understanding and managing your grief. It's about also remembering and treasuring celebration of the person. So maybe you might want to create a ritual or a ceremony or something to remember that person you've lost in your life. Some other holiday tips for coping with grief. Again, give yourself permission to cancel some holiday celebrations and choose ones that you want to do. So there's no harm in actually saying, no, I'd rather not do this tonight or not go to that event if you don't feel up to it. Again, with all the messages of families, you know, for getting together and the emptiness of someone left behind, it can be, sometimes you might struggle with the expectations of other people. So sometimes you might actually have to set up your own expectations. No is a complete sentence, so there's no need to apologize or explain. Don't let other people's expectations dictate how your holiday should unfold. If you don't feel like doing something this holiday season, then don't let other people force you to do it. To do whatever you feel comfortable with doing. If you're going to gatherings, you know, if you're trying to get out but you're not sure how long you can stay, have an exit strategy for yourself. Maybe just tell the person, I'm just dropping in. You know, keep the expectations low. You know, if you want to attend a holiday function, make sure you know your own limits. Maybe you want to leave early or arrive late, or maybe you want to take your own car. That way, when you feel you want to go, you can, right? Do what's meaningful for you over the holidays. May have to make some changes to your traditions and be flexible. So, you know, things won't be the same as before, and it's normal to feel at odds with yourself and your family and events when dealing with grief. But try not to hide it away. But you don't need to feel guilty about setting limits on what you can and can't attend. And grief also needs time, so you might want to have to give it time. Become meaningful traditions eventually for a person. So you might have to give it some time before you actually find your new normal. Some other tips, again, in terms of, you know, dealing with loss and grief during the holidays. You might have to, if you're helping some friend or someone who's coping with that, you might ask the person directly, how can you support them? With going out for coffee or being checked on or sharing emails or Facebook posts be something that they might like. Be sure to tell, and if you're the person who's going through grief, be sure to tell the person what you need. So what you appreciated, that phone call or that drop in visit. So let that person know that you really appreciate that. So hopefully they will check in on you again. Give positive feedback. Let the person know what was helpful. You may also start some other new traditions yourself. So something like, want to note the legacy of the person, say their name. Maybe you can use a recipe to make something. Watch their favorite movie, light a candle in their memory, or put up a decoration or a wreath for them. So talking about the deceased person is okay. Again, you want to keep the person's memory alive as opposed to avoid that. Again, some new traditions you might want to look at for the memory of the person. Maybe decorating a Christmas tree for a person, or donating money to a charity, or singing the favorite song that they used to sing, or reciting a special prayer before meals, or just maybe lighting a candle in their memory, right? So some symbolic gestures can help families validate the feelings of sadness and overcome any guilt that you may have for enjoying the special occasions without the person. And maybe at some point, maybe when you feel up to it, you can get involved in your community. So joining a support group or something like that you can do in memory of that person, or help you with what you're going through, giving back. So the thing with self-care during Christmas and any time is that it's not selfish. It's something that we want to make sure that we do on a regular basis. It's something that we want to do to put more water in our jugs so that we can pour again to help others and help ourselves. So self-care probably takes practice. It's something that we have to factor into our daily schedules in our life, and focus on actually doing it from time to time. Make time to do it. So some different things you might want to do, make sure you take time to do it, and never apologize for taking time for yourself. Like I said, we all have to do things to rejuvenate ourselves. We probably all have cell phones that we recharge. So what are we doing to recharge ourselves? And some things to keep in mind is that you're not alone. With COVID, we're all feeling anxious, stressed, and confused now with all these uncertain times that we're going through. So again, it's normal to feel that way. It's okay to not feel okay nowadays. Each person is individual, and we're all going to perceive and experience all of this differently. And that's okay. If someone else is coping better than you, that's fine. Maybe they have some other support to that. We all have to cope the same way, whatever way we can. Take each thing one step at a time. Don't decide you're going to look at all things all at once and act upon it. Instead, pick one thing that really stood out and something that you can build upon to help yourself through this season. If you feel completely overwhelmed, reach out to a crisis line or your doctor or your friends and family. You don't have to deal with it alone. And if you all come together as a community, the COVID situation will feel a lot easier for all of us. So just what I witnessed today, you folks coming together, you can really feel a sense of support and togetherness. So I definitely encourage us all to keep that up and use our resources and friends that we all have. Some resources, and I'll share these slides afterward. These are some resources out there that are in the community. So never feel like you're all alone. So there's some great mental health crisis lines and that you can actually use. A lot of these resources are open 24/7. Some other ones are the mental health crisis line is a real great one that we use. So some of these ones, there's another line called 211, I believe, of it just down here on the bottom here. Great support line for any type of resources that you're actually looking for. They can certainly help you find whatever resources you may need. And remember that no matter how stressful your situation gets, there are supports available. So on this picture, a lot of you folks have probably saw this picture before. And what this is the top of the Rockefeller Center in New York back in the 30s when it was being built. And I always look at this picture. When I look at it, obviously, you know, well, besides all the occupational health and safety violations you can see there from back then, if you look at the picture, there's a little gentleman here who seems to be kind of to himself. Everyone else seems to be talking to them, talking to each other here and there. But he just seems to be sitting by himself, just looking off. If you think about any of us, when you think about mental health or mental illness, you often hear that 1 in 4 of us may experience a mental illness in our lifetime. Actually, in a year, 1 in 3 in a lifetime. This gentleman here could be that person. But if you look at the picture, he's still in the picture with everyone else. He's still part of the group, and he still seems to be invited to have lunch with everyone, even though he may be struggling. So I encourage you all that any one of us could probably be that 1 in 3, that person who may be struggling with their mental health or wellness, especially during this time of year. But I want to encourage you all to make sure that you keep everyone else in the picture, to help that person who you or check in with that person or include that person in your Christmas and celebrations and that, so that they may feel comforted in being with others. So because any one of us at any point in time could be that person who is struggling with mental health, mental illness. And that's just very briefly, for the interest of time, some self-care tips for ourselves. Keep in mind that we can use. Any questions, anyone?
There's a chat from Lee. Thanks, John. So great that you give permission to not be okay all the time. We need to take care of each other.
Yes, yeah. Sometimes I think during Christmas, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to have that perfect Christmas, to get that perfect gift, to make sure we got everything done in time. But it's, you know, that's the expectations of our culture and society. Sometimes we just got to say, I got to do what's best for me, and what works for me is best, basically.
Thank you so much. That was, I personally found that very helpful. And I hope it was for other people as well. If there are no questions, I'm going to ask John to stop sharing his screen, and we have come to the end. We have one final gift for you. And what is a holiday social without it's a holiday social without a reputation? And this will be
landing people like you at TEDx Talk is my obsession. If you're a speaker, author, coach.
That's not who I had in mind.
It was the day before Christmas, and all through the plain, all the faces were gloomy and showing the strain of heading back west on a Christmas away from the family in town or the crowd around the bay. But down in the hole there was one happy face on a fellow so glad to be leaving this place. A fat little turd who'd been shot at, you see, so many times he decided to flee. But not being known as the world's greatest flyer, he thought he'd hitchhike on a one that went higher. Where she lands, Toad, I don't really care. They gotta be better than hanging around here and trying to avoid a load of lead shot just to finish me days in a cast iron pot. all the way to Toronto. He laughed his head off. When they opened the door there, he wouldn't get out. It don't look like much, and all hands seem vexed. He got boiled on this one, see where she peeps next. 4 hours later, they opened the door. He thought it was safe, so he went to explore. An aerial survey had him feeling so grand, just a few oil rigs and lots of nice sand. He thought he had stumbled on heaven, yes sir, till a voice from below bawled, "Lord Jesus, a curve!" Well, it didn't take long before word got around and the heavy artillery started coming. Our poor little turf of a strong deja vu. Why, Christ, that's a crowd from Harberley County. Of all the flights he could jump on, you see, he jumped on the one out to Fort McMurray. So he dodged and he wove as the ground fire grew, and he couldn't quite figure out just what to do. Well, just then it struck him. No, not the lead shot, but a scheme to avoid the cast iron pot. Do you have plans for roast turf? I think I can spoil them if the SPCA here will grant the asylum. Outside of the shelter, there gathered a crowd of hungry Newfoundlanders. I know they're not loud. They had all the gear for their supper plans, tubs of salt beef, fresh buds, and jam jams. One porty grey fellow, known only as Bert, said, "Send out the tub, and no one will get hugged." Well, the whole little talks that started next morning would soon overshadow talks on global warming. Harper and Williams arrived on the scene. Tony Blair and the Clintons came as a team. The international press recorded the drama of the first real test for Barack Obama. And after months of these talks came a deal of a sort, and the turf flew off home with an Air Force escort. And since all hands was in town, not much to do, they turned their attention to some minor issues. Middle East peace, and a nuclear arms pact, and a purity factory to be built in Fort Mac. So now our fine little turd spends his time on the funks, or he goes out to feed by the rocks and the sunkers. He tells all his buddies of his journey so queer. I tell you boys, I'm better off here. The humans are certainly an awful stum lot. I'm not even a turd. I'm a black Gilman.
You might have seen videos like this before. Here's the big thing. Anyone can make one of these videos in a few minutes. You might think you need a professional animator or to learn some fancy editing program. That's not the case. In fact, we know you can make a professional video just like this, even if you've never made a single video before. Let's find out.
In this video, I'm going to
And we're out. There we go. Okay. So that brings us to the end, and I know we're well over time, and so any of you who are still with us, thank you. I hope that you enjoyed our first holiday social, hopefully not our last. We're very glad that you joined us this morning, and thank you. It was a wonderful experience, a wonderful experiment. We hope that you have a safe, relaxing holiday filled with much love and many new memories. And if anybody has any final questions or anything, otherwise what we will be doing is sending out a link to the video, and John and Tara, if they have anything that they want us to attach to share with you, we will do that also. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Meg.
Thank you, Meg.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Meg. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Happy
Thank you, folks.
holidays.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks everyone for John and Tara. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Okay. Bye all.
Bye. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.